Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready to rumble? I mean, are you ready to... Shh, kids are asleep, Shh. If the answer is yes, then you've come to the right place. Welcome to round 6 of Retro Throwdown with your hosts, Deke, Lee Roth, and Sammy Hagar. If this is your first time joining us, this is how it works. Every 2 Saturdays, Deke and I, we take 2 albums and we pin them head to head. And we give them scores based on several aspects. Obviously, the music, the production, the cover art, and just general things that we like or dislike. And then we each give them a final score out of 20 and see who comes out the champion. All this, folks, in 30 minutes or less.
That's right.
So this week, we have a first on the show, but certainly not a last. We'll be looking at a solo artist, his second album, after he left his former band, and we're going to be looking at their second album at the same time. I'm talking, of course, about David Lee Roth, Skyscraper. Oh, look at that. Look at that double prop, multi-format prop. And we're putting it up against, that was released in January, by the way, January 26, 1988. And we're putting it up against Van Halen, OU812, released on May 24th, 1988. And as usual, we're going to go in order of release. So, Deke, why don't you start us off with David Lee Roth, Skyscraper?
Sure, pal. So, welcome, everybody. Jack's got a pop quiz question here for you.
I didn't study.
No, it's okay. We're going to see if you're on the ball here. What does Canada and the United States have in common with this record?
Hold on. Is it these mountains?
Oh, hey, that's good. That's geographical. That's very good. Your geography teacher in high school would have been proud of you for that. No, they both charted at number 6 in both countries.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so there you go. So that was, as Jack said, in January of 88. Now, for myself personally, Skyscraper, I bought right away on CD because I wasn't doing cassettes anymore and I wasn't doing vinyl anymore. It was all about CDs. So when Skyscraper first hit the stores, it came out right away on CD. I bought it right away, and I was surprised that the guy that was doing the production on it was David Lee Roth and co-produced by his guitarist, Steve Vai. Now, there's a bit of a backstory with that in regards to Ted Templeman. Now, Ted Templeman was originally going to produce the Skyscraper album. But as it turned out, he did a handshake deal with Dave. Dave wanted him to produce Skyscraper. And right around that same time, Aerosmith reached out to Ted Templeman. And they wanted him to produce what became Permanent Vacation. They offered Ted Templeman $1 million. Aerosmith did. Ted Templeman said, love to, can't do it because I've already committed to Roth. And then a week later, Roth called Templeman into his office. They had a meeting and Roth says, nah, I'm kind of going another way here. I'm going to produce the record myself. See ya, pal. So if you read the Ted Templeman book, he calls it the $1 million mistake that cost him $1 million, man. So anyways, I don't think he was hurting for money, but right. A little bit of a backstory. So, and you can kind of tell by where the production went on Skyscraper as opposed to Dave's previous album, which was Eat 'em and Smile, of course, right? So 10 songs. Now, my pal Proby told me the other day that all the guitar solos on the Skyscraper album by Steve Vai are actually from the demos. Dave heard the demos. Yeah, Dave heard the demos of Steve Vai's leads on it. Who said keep them. So that was kind of interesting. I mean, that was kind of unknown jargon for the last 35 years. So right. Yeah, just kind of neat to hear these kind of backstories now that they kind of float out there. So
you'd never know by listening to it.
No, and you wouldn't. And the funny thing is, so when you go through these songs, I remember when I go back to 1988, I was a young fella 21, and I heard the album for the first time, and I thought, okay, there's definite production shift. It's more sterile, more technically produced. Keyboards are just right up. I mean, after the opener, Knuckle Bones, you get Just Like Paradise, and that keyboard just G G G G G G G G. You know that it's leading off, and so Dave, he was changing up his sound. Some of the tracks like Bottom Line, the boogie rock of Hot Dog and a Shake. I mean, I find Hot Dog and a Shake, it's like he's trying to jam in too many lyrics into the verses, or the verses, like it's like a little much, mush mouth, so to speak, as Roth would probably even call it. But generally, it's not a bad record. Two of the tracks that I find that are really good on here is the acoustic Damn Good, which is unlike anything else on the Skyscraper record. It's not overproduced. It's just Vi on acoustic, Billy Sheehan on fretless bass, and it's got a pretty good vibe. And the other tune I really like on it is Hina. I love that opening of that track. I love whatever it is that Steve Vai is doing on that guitar. It works. And as you know, Steve Vai's guitar style for me works in the Dave Lee Roth band, whereas one of our other shows I talked about it, to me it just did not work at all in a band like Whitesnake. Too much dilly-dallying on the wang bar in Whitesnake when it's a blues band, but for Dave's Van Halen kind of rock, perfect. So the other thing that was kind of surprising too is when you go through the credits of the record and you look at a song like Stand Up, this guy here on my t-shirt, Billy Sheehan,
right,
is not even on the track. So it was interesting because shortly after this album was recorded and before Dave hit the road, Billy was out of the band, and so there was that. And you know what, this album reminds me of, like, the album Skyscraper really reminds me of another album that came out the same year that was very, very overproduced, but which is really good, and I still like it. And that's Robert Plant's Now and Zen record. It's, these records were made for 1988. A lot of bells and whistles and all the studio technology was poured into this record. And that's probably, whereas for me, it really works on the Plant record, but on the Dave record, it's just a little too overdone, so to speak. Like I said, like even, he's experimenting with tracks like Skyscraper, obviously Stand Up, Perfect Timing. They're catchy tunes, but they're just, for me, different kind of catchy tunes. Maybe it was like these songs were jammed as bonus tracks on the Crazy from the Heat EP. I think probably would have fit better. I just think Dave overproduced it, and who's going to tell Dave no?
Yeah, that's true.
Right? Yeah, so I think, to make it, no pun intended, my bottom line of this record, I would probably throw it down at a 7.
Okay. What are your thoughts on the cover art?
I think the front cover, and
the back,
as you can see, Dave, there, it's brilliant. I mean, the packaging is well done. So I'm not going to knock the packaging. It's just, I think the production was just a little too overcooked. And I remember having that discussion with my pal T-Bone when we first got it. We're like, you're kind of expecting a bit of Eat 'em and Smile vibe, not a part 2, but you're expecting,
consistency.
Yeah, give Dave credit. He tried experimenting, and you can see he experimented along the way. He went experimenting from Van Halen, and then when he did Crazy from the Heat, that was a left turn, and then he went to Eat 'em and Smile, which is a straight ahead rock record for the most part. And then he shifted gears again and went with Skyscraper, still a rock record, but like I said, just a little too overcooked in the studio. But he wasn't the only guilty party in the 80s that was overcooking their records. So so basically, make a long story somewhat a little shorter, I'm going 7.
7 out of 10. All right, sounds good. Well, we're we're a lot on the same page. A lot of stuff you said, I'm right there with you, Deke. So the one thing I want to get out of the way, first and
Mhm.
foremost, before I say anything else, is I like the album overall, but there's
Okay.
one song that
Okay.
I do not like, and
Okay.
I want to see if you can guess which one it is.
Oh boy, now you're quizzing me. You're throwing this right back at me, man. One song you really don't like.
Oh, yeah.
Was it one of the three that I mentioned that should have gone stuffed on the end of the Crazy from the Heat EP?
You did mention the song. I'm forgetting right now at which part, but you mentioned it.
Okay, so I'm gonna say Stand Up.
Nope. The hit single, Just Like Paradise.
Wow.
This must be just like living in paradise, and I don't want to go home. Well, guess what? I do want to go home and listen to something else because that song is not doing it for me, man. So everything else, it's just everything about it. It's so poppy. There's that keyboard, that annoying chorus, and I don't often like dislike songs this much, but this one here, I was like, ugh. I'm still here. I'm still sitting here confused as to why or how they picked that one to be the hit single. Like the main single of the album. When there's a lot of other good ones, like what's the second one? Or sorry, the opener, Knucklebones. Like that is a terrific song, but this one here, I don't get it. And I'll be honest, the song it largely affected my opinion of the album when I first heard it because I was late to the party. It was 2015. I found the CD, and I really liked Eat 'Em and Smile at this point. So I'm like, oh, cool, another Roth album. I'll pick it up, And I listened to it. Starts out with Knucklebones. Oh, yeah, it's pretty good, pretty good. Electric drums, I believe, or it sounds like it anyway. Yeah, but then the second track comes on, Just Like Paradise. I'm like, whoa! It just, I don't know. It's so early on in the album, it just kind of rubbed me the wrong way, and then I don't know. I had like that connection to the album. So, but not now, as years gone by, I've kind of it's grown on me. It's grown on me. Maybe I've matured. I don't know, but it's not so bad. But I still have that one song that Just Like Paradise. I listened to the album like 4 times in preparation for this video, and I was like, every time I'm like, nah, no, that one song. But yeah. So, that having been said, the rest of the album, I don't really know what to say that you haven't said, and I just feel like I'd be saying, "Oh, this song's good and that song's good too." I'll just tell you my three.
Sure.
My highlights here are The Bottom Line.
Yep.
Hot Dog and Shake, and one that you mentioned, Hina. I love Hina. That is such a good song, like you said. And the title track though, Skyscraper, that's an interesting one. Very experimental because it starts out. It's like it's really like it's almost like Flash Gordon, like something from the Flash Gordon soundtrack. It's very science fiction like. Mm-hmm. And then the use of echo in that song, like he goes like falling. Like it's cool and it's different. I don't know, it's different, and there's nothing wrong with that. So I was listening to that today, and it was like that one too grew on me. I didn't think much of it before, but I'm like, it's a pretty good title track.
Yeah.
Damn good, which you mentioned. That's a nice, mellow, acoustic-driven song. Right. Again, back then, I didn't think much of it because it wasn't heavy enough, But again, maybe I've matured. I don't know. But now I'm like, this is cool. This is a cool. This is the kind of song you sit on the deck with a beer, listening to that track. Life is good,
Yeah.
Production by David Lee Roth and Steve Vai. I think it's fine. I think the album sounds good overall. Like I didn't know about the demo thing that you said, so that's kind of cool. But I mean, I think they did okay. Like you mentioned, it's a bit overcooked. I agree, but overall, I think it's all right. And for me, the album cover, like I like it. I think that's cool. That's just what we expect from David Lee Roth. I mean, he's rock climbing. Why wouldn't he be?
Yeah, exactly.
So in summary. Well, I prefer Eat 'Em and Smile because they just hit the ground running with that one. This is a decent follow-up that's grown on me over the years. So I, too, am going to slap it with a 7.
Okay. So Dave fired out the first round of the shot. Okay. So
right,
I forgot to do something in regards to David Lee Roth. I know T-Bone's brother, Rug, will be watching this, so I I have to do this because it's David Lee Roth. Look at all the people here tonight. Sorry. But so now moving on to Van Halen. Now, Jex, I got another question for you.
Oh boy.
What does yes, it's kind of similar to the first question that I asked you in regards to Dave's chart positions. What does Canada and the US have in common with Van Halen charting with Oi 812?
Me and charts, man. I don't know this stuff. I have no clue. No clue.
They both countries, Oi 812 went to number 1.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. So Oi 812, like Jack said earlier, came out May 24th of 1988. And I still remember about a week before, they were on this radio syndicated program that we used to get here in town called Rockline. And what they did was that on the back-to-back Mondays, they had, I think it was Sammy and Eddie on one Monday. And then the following Monday, they had Michael and Alex. And I can't remember what set of guys went first. But they started previewing tracks from Oi 812 a good week and a half, 2 weeks before the album actually hit the store. So I was recording this stuff on good old cassette tape just to hear it. And the first song they dropped on Rockline was Mine All Mine.
Oh.
Which is the opening one. And when I heard that, I was like, wow, like this is killer. Like you listen to Alex's drumming, like it's, and Eddie's keyboard. And I was like listening to it going, okay, that's pretty cool. I can hear like the keys, like they're really pumping the keys on this thing or on this record or what? Like I was getting a little anxious. Yeah. But then of course come guitar solo time and I'm thinking, there's the king. He's back in form. So, and the record for me from there, smooth, pretty good. I mean, you got When It's Love, which is for Van Halen, Hagar Van Halen, or Van Hagar, whatever you want to call it. That was a good single. It was a great single, actually. Like, it wasn't the power balladish, like Poison's Every Rose Has Its Thorn, or, Heaven by Warrant. Like, When It's Love had a little more giddy up, especially once Eddie rips into the solo. You knew the song was going to, once Edward lays down the gauntlet with that 6-string of his, right? So, and then, continuing on, like AFU is one of my all-time favorite Hagar tunes with Van Halen. I mean, Alex Van Halen, once again, on the drums. I mean, what can you say, right? I mean, he leads it off, and then Eddie with that harmonic tapping at the beginning. I mean, it's just off the hook crazy. I was fortunate enough to see them on the Carnal Knowledge tour in 91 in Winnipeg, and they were still playing that tune at the time.
Really?
That for me was just that was money well spent for the ticket just to hear that tune, man, because it's so good, killer. Cabo Wabo is a great track. I found the one thing is I thought 7 minutes is a little too long. I thought they could have maybe shimmed off a few minutes there. Now flipping to the second side, Feel So Good, Finish What You Started, great tracks. Feels So Good. I know a lot of people don't talk about it, but I really like that. I mean, I'm not a keyboard guy in bands generally, unless you're UFO and know how to mix keyboards with guitar. But Eddie knew how to do that because, I mean, he's Eddie Van Halen, right? But I like that beginning of that keyboard. It feels so good. Where it's like just simple stuff like that catches my ears, ear candy. And, but where I find the album where I'm going to kind of knock it around a bit is some of Hagar's lyrics, like Source of Infection. I mean, it's a good party rock tune stuff, but I swear to God, I thought that was like T-Bone sitting on his shitter writing lyrics. I mean, it was like, it was kind of like a little out there. Like, it was just like, really? Come on, man. Like, you write a song like When It's Love, Mine All Mine, and then you do Source of Infection. It's like, was he put on the spot at the end of the record? Hey, you got to write lyrics, and he's just doodling around in the studio. I don't know. Black and Blue I really like as a single as well, or as a song. That's pretty cool. I mean, the lyrics are just filthy dripping with sex, of course. Yeah. One of the highlights for me on the record actually is the album closer, which is on vinyl. Vinyl album closer, which is Sucker in a Three-Piece.
Yeah.
That to me is like Van Halen mashing up some AC/DC and just pushing the pedal to the metal. I mean, you listen to that opening of that when the drums come in, that just to me just reminds me of like AC/DC and their heaviness, like boom, 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 with the drums locked in. It's so good. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, Sammy when he does that one part, oh, say it ain't so, like, you know, it's like so cool that Eddie rips out the solo and stuff. But if you were fortunate enough, like I did back in 1988 when it came out, and you had it on CD, you got the boozed up bonus track of Apolitical Blues. And, you know, it was kind of neat, you know, like a good little fun kind of party rock song that, you know, wasn't hurting anybody. It was a cover of a Little Feat tune. And two other things. Originally, 0812 was going to be called Bone. That's what they were going to call the album, Bone. And the guys hated it. And Sammy Hagar, I guess, seen some kind of delivery truck in California that had 0812 plastered on the side of it. And then he thought, ding, there's the album. And he brought it to the guys. They loved it. And supposedly there was an extra song recorded that they might have never finished. They never released it. It's called Numb to the Touch. So who knows? Maybe somebody out there has it floating, found it on the good old LimeWire back in the day or something like that. But there's another song out there. So my thoughts on this record is musically, I would give the album a full out 10 because, I mean, it's Eddie Van Halen writing the music, right? Along with Alex, and I don't know if you can count Michael Anthony in any of this at all other than showing up and playing bass. But for Eddie writing the music, no, the one thing is I have a knock with is some of the Sammy's lyrics because it's like, dude, come on, man. Like even back in '88, I was Source of Infection. I'm going, love the music, but man, these lyrics are just plain old goofy, you know. So production's not bad. It's pretty good. It's stripped back. It's exact opposite production style of Roth Skyscraper. So I gotta let Jackson here. So, anyways, I'm going with a 9 with 0812.
9 out of All right. I'll try to make this one quick because I know we have that 30-minute or less guarantee. So luckily, you covered a lot of this stuff. So I'll try to make it quick. But yeah, for this, as far as Van Hagar goes, or the Sammy Hagar era of Van Halen goes, it took me a while to get into it. But when I was younger, it was all David Lee Roth era. Yeah. Nothing else. I'd heard a handful of songs of Sammy Hagar, Van Halen. I was like, wow, what is this? It's sappy. It's all poppy. It's all love songs. Like I was not interested until 2015. I heard the song "Get Up," which is from 5150, which is a rocking song. Like, oh, all right. Well, maybe the Hagar era is not so bad. So then I started listening to it, and I warmed up to it. You know, Still a whole different animal I find with David Lee Roth because he had that, that personality, that charisma that he brought to the band. So it's it's a different experience. A lot of that still comes into play when I listen to the Sammy Hagar era. Yeah. But yeah, I certainly appreciate it, and I respect Sammy as an artist too. Like his solo stuff, I love. So there is that. So let's see. Let's talk about the song. So it opens up nicely with "Mine All Mine," like you said, which you heard on the radio back in the day. Like just that opening, those keyboards and the synthesizers. It catches your attention right out of the gate. And that catchy chorus, it'll stick in your head for days. Mine, all mine, and then moves on to "When It's Love." That's the sappy, poppy Hagar stuff I was talking about. For me, when I was younger, anyway, I was like, nah, and I'm still kind of like that. But I will say it's laid out well. The keyboards, the vocals, the guitar solo by Eddie Van Halen, they all complement each other, like you mentioned, Deke. So it's not a favorite, but it's all right. AFU, All Fired Up or Naturally Wired. That's my favorite. That is my favorite. Like you said, that's a killer tune right there. And that's reminiscent of Van Halen of old. You know what I mean? Yeah. Every now and then they'll do those songs. Okay, I could imagine that, from the Roth days. Mm-hmm. Eddie's just shredding on guitar. Alex is smashing those drums. Sammy is shouting the vocals. And you got Michael Anthony back there too with the bass and the backing vocals. So I like that song a lot. Cabo Wabo, you took the words right out of my mouth. 7 minutes, that could have been trimmed in half. I find it's such a boring song, or at least it starts out okay, but it's way too long. So I definitely agree with you there. Source of Infection, I actually have that listed here as another favorite. Because it sounds like old Van Halen. But I'll be honest, you mentioned the lyrics. I never really, because for me, I listen more musically.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, I'll have to listen to the lyrics as I never really paid attention. So you got me kind of curious, if you're if you're saying it sounds like someone wrote it on the shitter, I got some listening to do. Feels So Good is an interesting one that you talked about. I was actually listening to it through headphones last night, while doing my pre-bedtime Sudoku puzzles, and all
Nice.
of a sudden that song came on. I was like, whoa, like it mellower, but like you said, that intro, it's like, I don't know, it was soothing, and through headphones, it was a whole other experience. And I mentioned I'm not a fan of prominent keyboards, but here it works. And the background vocals, ooh, it's I don't know, another song that's laid out well. That's the production is great here, like you mentioned. So finish what you started. Kind of a bluesy number, not really memorable in my opinion. Just kind of meh. And the two last tracks, well, at least on the vinyl, Black and Blue, Sucker in a Three-Piece, both very good songs, especially Sucker in a Three-Piece. But I got to say, that very last line, you're talking about cheesy lyrics, but that very last thing that he says, what does he say? That's it right there. Suck it all up, right down to the last drop. I'm like, that was not necessary. I just, like, come on, Sammy.
But you know what? That was 1988. So 1988, all that kind of stuff was flying. Like every single band was kind of doing that kind of stuff, right? So
it's true.
They were playing the game like with everybody else. So
well, it's true. Well, we talked about Motley Crue, Dr. Feelgood, 1989. What's the song on there?
She Goes Down.
Yeah, exactly. So they said, yeah, with the zipper, yeah. So yeah, I get what you're saying. Back then, it was just that was in. That was the fashion. So I was gonna talk about the bonus track, but again, you took the words out of my mouth. You had to get this, and that was the marketing thing at the time. Like, hey, you want to hear this extra song? Well, you got to buy a CD, and you got to buy a CD player and all this stuff, right? Because CDs were still kind of up and coming. They weren't like new, but not everyone had them. But what a shock that must have been, because when I first heard them, like, that's the bonus track. Like, it's the most un-Van Halen sounding thing ever. It's so bluesy. It's even bluesier than what's the other blues song? Anyway, I can't remember, but the bluesy song I mentioned earlier, it's even bluesier than that. But then come to find out it's a cover. I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, I wish they could have picked a better bonus track personally. But I mean, it's nice to have. So to summarize, while it's missing the energy of the David Lee Roth era, the songs here are okay. Like I said, there's a lot of good ones, good production. The album art, not very original, but it's a nice little tribute to the. I guess it would go for a Beatles thing.
Maybe. Yeah.
With the Beatles from 1963. So I'm gonna give it a final score of 7. Once again, I got 7 for Roth, and I got 7 for Van Halen. Keeping things.
All right, so we're gonna tally this up here.
So it should be.
Got the drum solo. You got the drum solo. I got the props.
You got the prop?
Yeah,
I got the prop solo.
So David Lee Roth, Bozy Bop, has 14, and Van Hagar.
Woo! Winner. Chicken dinner. Oh,
so
sorry, Michael.
Yeah, sorry, Michael. Yeah. So yeah, folks. So there you go. There's what we would deem the year of 1988. The Retro Throwdown winner is Van Halen. David Lee Roth, pretty close, 2-point spread. There you go. Hey, there you go, flying the colors, buddy. As always, want to thank Jex for coming on, spending time listening to these records, because for myself, being a hell of a lot older than him, I've heard these records for decades. Whereas, as Jack says, he's only heard them for a few years. So you have to take that into account. He's hearing it from a whole different perspective. And that's the fun thing about this show is, like, we don't, like I told everybody in every episode, we don't talk beforehand. We only decide what records we're going to do, and we go to our little devices and do our thing. And you find out as soon as we find out when we're taping this. So thank everybody for watching. If you feel like it, push the subscribe button. No pressure. And we'll be back in 2 weeks. And what we're going to do is we're going to do 2 Canadian bands. We just named the bands, Jex. Do you want to name the bands, but not the albums?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, you good.
All right. So in the left corner, this is my left, Helix. And then the right corner, go ahead.
Honeymoon Suite. Sweet. But anyways,
so that'll be March 11th. Tune in.
March 11th. Hey, good thing you're on the math, buddy. I was brain farting. But anyways, hey everybody, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in 2 weeks with a all Canadian throwdown of Helix versus Honeymoon Suite, and we'll see which one comes out on top then. Bye for now, folks.